Hello and welcome to another episode of DieCastRestos. It's Jason here with the 36C Opel Diplomat ready for restoration. I have in my possession two of these models, one most recently acquired without a bonnet, so I'm going to be restoring this one today. Generally in very play-worn condition. I don't need to replace the windscreen, that's reusable. The base is very scratched, a lot of the paint is chipped away. There's a single rivet at the back and it latches into the front. Here I'm fitting the replacement bonnet purchased from model-supplies.co.uk. It fits quite nicely back into the slot there, and that just needs a little bit of work to make it ready for restoration. So first of all, I drill out the rivet post at the rear and unclip the base. There we go, just falls out. Then I just remove the engine mount, which is a separate piece here. And here are all the parts complete. Missing the tow hook on the plastic insert, but I'm not too phased about that for this one. So I'll drill out the rivet post and then tap that post. And then remove the wheels from the base. I know this one's going to be a bit of a pain because the paint on the model itself is a very thick and metallic coating on it, so I'm giving it a good going over. As you can see here, after a bit of work, it doesn't really seem to have done a great deal, so that will need lots of scrubbing with a wire brush. Here I'm just going to use a screwdriver to push out the A-pillar, which has been damaged slightly. So here we go, I'll give it a bit of force here, not too much though, because I just don't really want to go through it. Let's see that again in slow motion, shall we? Yeah, far too much force. I don't know what I was thinking, but I like to give myself some more work. So I've done this once before, so I'll do it again. A bit of masking tape and reapply that original A-pillar. Once I've found the right position, I'll be using some super glue. And then I'll use some baking powder to get that to set that little bit quicker. Now I can work away at the mound that I'd created. I'd definitely put a bit too much on here because the nib on my super glue had broken, so it poured out. But eventually I get it to a kind of respectable original shape after a bit of work, and it looks a lot better. Now these reproduction metal parts generally need a bit of buffing up every now and again because the quality isn't absolutely perfect. So here I'm using some abrasive mesh to do just that. Next I just use the wire brush on the base. All the paint came off of here quite nice and easily. Now I'm using some Tamia fine surface primer to spray the body once I'm happy with all of the bodywork and the adjustments made. Then I just check over the body, make sure I've not missed any particular areas. And I decide to go over the front again here, as I'd looked like I'd missed the grille. But starting to look a little better again. Some decent detail on this. It's not my favourite model of all, but I've had one of these in my collection for quite some time. Now here's the original windscreen. All in good working order, no real damage to that, so I'll pop that in for a good clean. Here's the interior, very dirty, very grubby. Like I said before, missing the tow hook on the back, but again, not too fussed about that, so we'll get that in for a clean. And the plastic engine will just need a bit of a scrub as well because that's been open to the elements for so long. And a good selection of wheels, all in good working order. So I give them a quick going over. Removing the steering wheel, placing it forwards, just so it's a little bit easier to clean on the seats. Getting that grime out of the engine bay. I'll pop them aside on a piece of kitchen towel to dry. And I'll give the windscreen a good going over first of all with some soap and water. And a quick buffing up of those wheels. Next I used my battery drill to clean up the axles. And again, spelling out the name of the model, because why not? And it also shows off my fantastic calligraphy skills. And then I grip the axle with the sandpaper, still in the drill, to give the surface a nice shine again. Here I'm just brushing on some Citadel Knoll Oil gloss to give the wheels a bit of a lease of life. I was quite happy with the results of my last video, so I've continued to use it for this one. Now I'm just going to buff up the windscreen with some Autosol and using a earbud, Q-tip, cotton bud, whatever the hell you call them, and covering all areas and covering the insides as well with a fine layer. Don't have to use much, this tube should last me a lifetime. And then just using the opposite end to buff it off again. Just making sure you get all of the areas on there. Nice and clean and shiny. Already looking a lot better. Doesn't take much effort really with these windscreens. Especially when they've not been covered in paint. Then I'll use my Astonish floor polish. I'll dunk the windscreen into the polish itself. I'll remove it from the liquid, just tap away the excess and pop it under a glass to keep the dust off for a while. Next I'll use my chrome pen and brush it onto the engine bay. Here I wasn't particularly happy with the way the hood or bonnet had come out, so I just use a bit of filler just to smooth it out a little bit. And then I'll reprime. And again, there's a few bodywork issues that I wasn't too happy with, especially around the fixed A-pillar. There was a bit of evident protrusion along that A-pillar, so I decided to give it a bit more of a filing down, just round off those edges and make it look a little more original. I know I'm not going to get it perfect when I've made that kind of glaring error, but what can you do? Here I'm just tapping the wheels back onto the repainted base. Looking a lot better already and just ready for a painting. And here we go. I'll just use some of my silver paint pen to paint the ends of those axles. And you can immediately see the difference it makes just by applying that paint. I'm always very pleased with the outcomes using these pens. They tend to do a very good job. Unless there's a better method, I'll carry on using these for the time being. Now I move on to the rattle can. I give the body a couple of good coats. This will be using the Tamia TS21 Gold. I was led to believe it was a little bit darker than the actual outcome. It's quite a vivid shine it gives to the model, so it doesn't exactly match, but in certain light I find it does, so it's a bit hit and miss. This is definitely one of the models I will revisit once I decide to go for the airbrushing route. The finish is really nice, I'm quite pleased with it, and there's a slight metallic sparkle to it, so it really sets it off. Now I'll begin the reassembly process with the re-sprayed and re-primed bonnet there. I will pop the windscreen in just over the interior rivet post. Next I'll place the engine back into the bay. And this is covered with the interior, which just pops over the rear rivet post. I think I've still got a screw in there, so I'm not sure how well this is going to go. May just cut here. Yes, there we go, screw now removed. So then I can refit the base in through the little latch at the front, clipped in and pressed down on the rear, and then I can screw it in. Next I'll move on to using my silver paint pen to paint out the grille and make it look original again. Now we can have a little reminder of what we started out with. Now this is my existing model I've had in my collection for years and years. This one is in pretty rough condition, let's be honest. There's a slight crack to the windscreen on the opposite side, but it is also missing that tow hook, as you can see here. What I have been doing up until now is restoring models that I've bought online, rather than my own existing collection. I don't know why this is, maybe it's because I've got some sort of emotional attachment to the originals. Who knows, but to be honest, this could really do with the restoration. It's not in a brilliant way. But now we can see the difference. As you can see here, this colour's not exactly the same. Probably my most distant out of all my models I've created so far. But I quite like the finish, I'm quite pleased with that overall. There's a bit of a panel gap between the bonnet and the very front. I don't know whether there's a part that was lost when the original bonnet was lost, I'm not sure. And I think I've used a little bit too much filler so that it doesn't really have that defined central groove in the bonnet any longer. Aside from that, I'm quite pleased with the overall outcome, but we'll move onwards and upwards with the next one. Thank you everyone for taking the time out to watch my videos. Thanks to all my subscribers, and I'll catch you again for the next one. Bye for now.